Picture this, it's the 1st century AD. You're standing in the heart of Rome, the capital of the largest empire the world has ever known. This isn't just a city, it's the epicenter of the ancient world. A cosmopolitan metropolis teeming with merchants, soldiers, artists, slaves, and philosophers from every corner of the Mediterranean. Ancient writers described a vibrant city filled with monumental buildings and bustling markets, its population soaring past 1 million people. But behind the triumphal arches and marble columns, there was another Roman noisy, dirty, and profoundly unequal city where just living was a daily struggle. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and discover what it was really like to live in Rome during its golden age. Rome was a city that grew far faster than it could be organized. Every decade, more and more people flooded in. Peasants from the countryside searching for bread, veterans awaiting their promised rewards, and immigrants dreaming of citizenship. The result? Unimaginable overcrowding, chaos, and a housing crisis unlike anything seen before. By the 2nd century, the city was bursting at the seams with up to 1 million inhabitants. But that number didn't mean comfort, it meant improvisation. Most of the population lived crammed into buildings called insulae, multi-story apartment blocks made of cheap brick and concrete. From a distance, they might have looked impressive, but inside, they were death traps. The famous architect Vitruvius warned about the risks. They were unstable, caught fire easily, and could collapse without a moment's notice. The Great Fire of 64 AD, which devastated Rome under Emperor Nero, brutally exposed just how fragile these buildings were. Entire streets turned to ash in a matter of hours. Inside each insula you'd find tiny, subdivided units. We're talking rooms without windows, without bathrooms, and almost always without running water. The lower floors, which were more expensive, were occupied by families with some money. But the upper floors were a different story. To reach them, you had to climb narrow, dangerous stairs. Once there, you faced stifling heat in the summer and damp, bone-chilling cold in the winter. A single spark from a candle could ignite a tragedy. Meanwhile, the elite lived in another universe entirely. Their domus were luxurious single-family homes built around internal courtyards, complete with gardens and elegant columns. They offered comfort, space, and privacy with spacious dining areas, libraries, halls decorated with stunning frescoes, and even private baths. These homes were a clear reflection of the massive social abyss separating the common citizen from the aristocrats. But even these mansions had to contend with Rome's cramped layout. Hills, narrow alleys, and noisy neighborhoods put a limit on urban luxury. Many of the wealthy preferred to escape to suburban villas, away from the constant bustle, where they could enjoy views of the countryside and the simple scent of tranquility. This stark urban inequality shaped every aspect of daily life. One person could be living among marble columns, while their neighbor, just a few feet away, was in a room with a wooden roof on the verge of collapsing. Rome was a city where physical closeness masked enormous social distances. And yet, amidst all this, there was one place where rich and poor met side by side, towel in hand and sweat on their brow. That place was the public bath. The first great thermal complexes appeared in the 1st century BC, like the baths of Agrippa. Soon after, true cathedrals of bathing were constructed, the baths of Trajan, Caracalla, and Diocletian. These were monuments of marble with giant columns, vaulted ceilings, and breathtaking mosaics telling mythological stories. And the most impressive part, they were open to everyone. Entry was cheap, sometimes even free, paid for by emperors or wealthy patrons looking to boost their public image. The bathing ritual was almost like a choreographed dance. First, you'd anoint your body with perfumed oil. Then, you'd scrape off the sweat and dirt with a curved blade called *strigil*. After that, you'd move through a series of rooms, the warm *tepidarium*, the hot *coldarium*, and finally the *frigidarium* for a shocking, icy plunge. There were also dry steam rooms, libraries, areas for gymnastics, and even gardens to relax in. The rich, of course, were accompanied by slaves who carried their towels, prepared their oils, and adjusted the water temperature. The poor, on the other hand, did everything themselves, but they could still enjoy the very same incredible infrastructure. There's a story about Emperor Hadrian seeing an elderly veteran trying to wash himself alone. In a surprising gesture, he lent the man one of his own slaves, an emperor and a common soldier. Brought together by the ritual of the bath, the baths were also the social hubs of Rome. They were the setting for business deals, gossip, and even political conspiracies. It was common to close a deal there or to spread a rumor that you hoped would reach the right ears. Initially, the baths were mixed, but Emperor Hadrian put a stop to that, separating the sexes for the sake of decorum. By the 2nd century, Rome had more than 800 public baths of all sizes. This just goes to show how much personal hygiene and the appearance of civilization were ingrained in the Roman soul. But keeping your clothes clean outside the bath? That was a whole different challenge. And this is where one of the city's strangest and most lucrative industries comes into play. Dressing well was a social obligation for any Roman citizen who wanted to be taken seriously. A clean toga, a white tunic, an unstained cloak, your appearance was a direct reflection of your status. But with dusty streets, constant sweat, and no washing machines, keeping your clothes clean was a true feat. And this is where a vital, yet pretty repulsive, profession enters the picture: the fuller. The fuller was the laundryman of ancient Rome. He didn't just wash clothes, he restored the dignity of garments, though his methods would make anyone today cringe. The main ingredient for washing was, literally, urine. Yes, you heard that right. Urine, being rich in ammonia, is a potent alkaline agent, perfect for removing grease, dirt, and odors from fabrics. The city had public amphorae strategically placed where citizens could relieve themselves. The contents were then collected by professionals or opportunistic entrepreneurs. It was all completely legal and highly profitable. In the workshops of the ****, the urine was mixed with water and poured into large stone basins. The workers would then get into the basins and stomp on the fabrics with their feet, a rhythmic, prolonged, and absolutely essential process. The writer Pliny the Elder describes these practices in his **Natural History**, and in Pompeii, inscriptions on walls preserve the names and services of local fullers, proving that it was a respected trade, despite the overwhelming smell. But no one knew how to profit from it better than Emperor Vespasian. He instituted the **Vectigal urinae**, the urine tax. Anyone who collected the liquid from the public amphorae had to pay the government. When his own son, Titus, mocked him for it, Vespasian simply held a coin up to his nose and famously said, **Pecunia non olet**, money does not stink. For obvious reasons, the laundries were usually located outside the fancier neighborhoods, operating day and night near markets and workshops. But if you thought the smell of the laundries was bad, the city streets could be even more of a challenge. At first glance, Rome's road system seemed like an engineering marveland in many ways. It was. The main streets were paved with large blocks of volcanic basalt, leveled for drainage. With well-defined curbs and sidewalks, you could leave the city and travel to the farthest corners of the empire without ever leaving a Roman road. But inside the city itself, it was a different story. Because of the uncontrolled, spontaneous growth of entire neighborhoods, the urban streets became a chaotic labyrinth. We're talking narrow alleyways, sharp curves, dead ends, and passages so tight that a cart could barely squeeze through. The city's hilly terrain forced the construction of stairs, ramps, bridges, and improvised tunnels. Rome wasn't planned, it just grew. During the day, the noise was deafening. The satirist Juvenal complained about the constant racket, squeaking wheels, the clang of hammers, the shouts of vendors. The great orator Cicero wrote about how difficult it was to sleep in Rome. Because of the nighttime bustle, and he wasn't exaggerating. To try to control the chaos, Julius Caesar banned most cart traffic during the day, but that just shifted the problem to the night. While the rich tried to sleep in their quiet domus, the people in the insulae were shaken by the roar of iron wheels on stone. The buildings had no sound insulation, the windows sealed nothing, and a constant noise, just like the smell, was simply a part of daily life in the greatest city on earth. So, the next time you see a movie showing the majestic glory of ancient Rome, remember the full picture. It was a city of incredible contrasts where splendor and squalor, innovation and chaos existed side by side. The streets of ancient Rome were a chaotic maze. Potholes and cracks turned simple walks into dangerous obstacle courses. But amidst the chaos, there was a system, a law created during Augustus's reign. The Lex Julia Municipalus dictated everything from the minimum width of streets to what could be built in each area. Some corners even had mosaics indicating neighborhoods or building functions, a simple but effective form of signage. Yet, what truly kept Rome alive wasn't its laws, its armies, or its emperors. It was water. Beneath the city's chaotic surface lay one of the most sophisticated sanitation systems of the ancient world, the Cloaca Maxima, which started as an open ditch in the 6th century BC to drain the Roman Forum's marshes, eventually grew into a massive underground tunnel. At its peak, it connected public latrines, drainage canals, and baths, flushing everything straight into the Tiber River. They carried water from sources over 60 kilometers away, using an incredibly precise gravity system. The Aqua Claudia, built by Emperors Claudius and Nero, is a testament to their genius, crossing hills and valleys on towering arcades, all calculated to the millimeter to maintain a perfect slope. This water supplied public fountains, baths, latrines, and, if you were wealthy, your own home. And when nature called, privacy was the first casualty. Public latrines were large rooms with stone seats side by side, no dividers in sight. A channel of running water flowed beneath the seats to carry waste away. Instead of toilet paper, they used a shared sponge on a stick called a tossorium, which was kept in a bucket of vinegar water. It was functional, but as you can imagine, not exactly hygienic. Despite the engineering, the city still had open sewers, contaminated water, and overwhelming smells. But this incredible infrastructure accomplished something extraordinary. It sustained a massive metropolis, keeping it alive and relatively stable. No other ancient city even came close. If water sustained Rome's body, spectacle sustained its soul. Life in Rome was tough, but entertainment was a guarantee. For an empire built on blood and discipline, entertainment was more than just a relief, it was a powerful political tool. The poet Juvenal summed it up as panem et circenses, bread and circuses. This simple formula kept the masses happy and obedient. Nowhere was this more evident than at the Colosseum. Inaugurated in 80 AD, the Flavian amphitheater was more than just a stadium, it was a symbol of imperial power. Its massive arches could welcome up to 80,000 people, all hungry for blood, sweat, and glory. And the best part? It was free. Emperors and magistrates paid for the shows to gain political favor. The one who funded the spectacle won the heart of the crowd. But Rome's entertainment wasn't just about gladiators. The city also had grand stone theaters, like the Theatre of Pompey, inspired by Greek designs. With their semicircular seating and perfect acoustics, they hosted everything from epic tragedies to raunchy comedies. These plays often carried political undertones, giving the common people a rare chance to laugh at or boo the powerful. Then there was the Circus Maximus, a venue dedicated to pure speed and danger. Chariot races with teams like the Blues and the Greens drove crowds of up to 150,000 spectators into a frenzy. The stands would shake with cheers, bets, and rivalries that often spilled into violent brawls. On spectacle days, the city would grind to a halt. Shops closed, schools emptied, and the people flocked to their seats, ready for the empire's greatest offering, distraction. While the adults cheered in the stands, another part of society was growing up in the shadows, with little access to laughter but everything to lose: the children. There were no public schools. A child's future depended entirely on their family's wealth and, crucially, their gender. Learning began at home. The father, the pater familias, was the primary educator. He taught his sons to read, write, count, and, most importantly, how to be proper Roman citizens, disciplined, obedient, and strong. Girls, on the other hand, learned from their mothers how to manage a household and prepare for marriage, which could happen as early as their teenage years. Wealthy families hired private tutors, often educated Greek slaves, who would accompany the children to their lessons and enforce discipline. Classes could happen anywhere under public porticos, in city squares, or in rented rooms. The curriculum was divided into 3 stages. First, basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. Next, students studied classic literature from authors like Homer and Virgil. The final stage, reserved for the elite few, was rhetoric, the art of public speaking, essential for a political career. Girls rarely made it past basic literacy. Since they couldn't participate in public life, a formal education was seen as unnecessary. Only in the richest households might you find educated women, some even skilled in philosophy or poetry. Archaeology paints a picture of a very serious childhood. Toys like ivory dolls with movable joints, dice, and spinning tops have been found, showing there was some time for play. But it was limited. By age 12, boys could be working, training for the army, or taking on civic duties. Girls at that age were often already engaged to be married. This all happened in a world where child mortality was incredibly high due to disease and malnutrition, leading to a somewhat detached approach to childhood. For Roman women, life was a set of rules made almost exclusively by men. They couldn't vote, hold public office, or even speak in court. Legally, they were always under the guardianship of a man, their father, their husband, or sometimes even their own son. But this doesn't mean all women had the same experience. A woman's life in Rome was shaped by her social class, her family's wealth, and the specific man who held authority over her. Their stories, though often unheard, are just as crucial to understanding the complex reality of this incredible ancient civilization. What was it like to be a woman in ancient Rome? The answer is complex, and it all depended on your social status. A wealthy woman, a matrona, could enjoy a life of relative comfort. She was the commander of the household, managing slaves, overseeing the home, and handling properties. She also took part in religious cults. Some of these women, like Augustus's wife Livia or Nero's mother Agrippina, even managed to influence the political world through their powerful husbands and sons. But for poor women, life was a constant struggle. They had to work. Many were vendors, midwives, laundresses, or artisans. They worked in the markets, in workshops, or even on the streets, contributing directly to their family's survival. Their routines were exhausting, and their social world was very limited. Then there were the women who found power through religion. The most respected of all were the Vestal virgins, chosen as young girls to serve the goddess Vesta. For 30 years, they lived a life of celibacy dedicated to maintaining the sacred fire of Rome. In return, they received incredible honors and privileges. They could manage their own inheritances, free prisoners, and ride in carriages. But the rules were strict. If a Vestal virgin broke her vow of celibacy, the punishment was terrifying. She would be buried alive. And of course, there were women on the margins of society. Registered prostitutes, known as meretresses, worked in regulated brothels or in specific tolerance zones. Some were slaves forced into this life, while others were free women who chose it to escape family control, even if it meant losing their social standing. They were stigmatized, but they were still an active part of city life. Despite all the restrictions, Roman history is filled with women who left their mark. Julia Domna, the wife of Emperor Septimius Severus, was a great patron of philosophers. Cornelia, the mother of the famous Gracchi brothers, became a symbol of republican virtue. And countless other women, whose names we'll never know, navigated the fine line between law and necessity, adapting just to survive. But above all, the Roman woman was the pillar of the home, the spiritual and moral center of the family. And it's within that private, domestic space that we find another fascinating aspect of Roman life, their everyday religion. In ancient Rome, religion wasn't a choice, it was a duty, a civic, personal, and family obligation. At home, the most intimate rituals were dedicated to the lares and penates, the protective spirits of the family and the household. You'd find small altars, called l'oraria, near the kitchen or at the entrance of the house. Here, the head of the family, the paterfamilias, would lead daily rituals. He'd make offerings of wine, incense, pieces of bread, or fruit. These rites were believed to guarantee the protection of their ancestors, keep the pantry full, and ensure the health of everyone living under that roof. They truly believed that missing a ritual or offending a spirit could bring disaster upon the family. Outside the home, public religion was on a much grander scale. Massive temples dedicated to gods like Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Juno dominated the city's skyline. The temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill was the symbolic heart of Rome. Then, with Emperor Augustus, a new layer was added, the imperial cult. It started with the deification of Julius Caesar after his death, and soon it became common to worship the emperor himself as a divers god. Altars and temples were built, and priests were appointed to perform rituals for these men who had become gods. It was a powerful form of religious propaganda. But even with all these gods and rituals, there was a power that was even more present in a Roman's daily life. It was the power of law, politics, and the absolute authority of the head of the family. In ancient Rome, being a citizen was a privilege. It was a symbol of status, power, and belonging. But it was also a straitjacket filled with duties and limits that not everyone could escape. In the early days of Rome, citizenship was an exclusive right reserved for free men born in the city who belonged to specific families. Over time, reforms and conflicts slowly expanded this right. In the 2nd century BC, the Gracchi brothers tried to extend citizenship to Rome's Italian allies. But it wasn't until the year to 12 AD, with the Edict of Caracalla, that nearly all free men across the entire empire were finally granted Roman citizenship. Being a citizen meant you could vote in assemblies, register in the census, serve in the army, and appeal to the courts. But it also came with duties. You had to pay taxes, perform military service, and obey the law. In reality, though, the poorest citizens had very little political influence. The real power was held by the senatorial aristocracy, a small group of wealthy families who controlled the Senate, the government positions, and the courts. The Republic was said to be participatory, but Rome was really an oligarchy with a popular facade. And this same power structure was mirrored within the household. The head of the family, the paterfamilias, had complete legal authority over every single person in his home, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and his slaves. He decided who his children would marry. He controlled all business and finances. He had the power to punish and to decide inheritances. In theory, he even had the right to sell his own children into slavery, reject a newborn baby, or even sentence a family member to death. Now, in practice, as the empire grew, many of these extreme powers were softened by new laws and customs, but the figure of the paterfamilias remained the ultimate symbol of Roman order, firm, hierarchical, and inflexible. This family model perfectly reflected the values of the Roman state. The discipline of the home was the same discipline expected in the army. The obedience owed to a father was the same obedience demanded by the emperor. The mos maiorum, the custom of the ancestors, dictated that every person had to respect their social position, their gender, and their destiny. So, living in Rome during its golden age meant living in a world of constant paradox. On one hand, you had the most advanced city of the ancient world. Aqueducts carried fresh water for miles, public baths were accessible to many. Laws were written down, and the monumental buildings and culture would go on to influence the entire Western world. But on the other hand, it was an overcrowded metropolis. The majority of people lived in unstable, poorly built apartment buildings, sleeping in suffocating little rooms and sharing a bathroom with dozens of strangers. It was a city that produced breathtaking art, poetry, and philosophy, but it was also a city that smelled of sewage, vibrated with the sounds of mass executions in the Colosseum, and legally allowed a father to abandon his newborn child. Knowing all this, let me ask you, do you think you would have had the courage to live in Rome 2,000 years ago? Let me know in the comments. We love reading your answers. If you liked this video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Hit that notification bell and share this video with anyone else who loves history. And as always, May God bless you.